You okay? Are we live? Okay.
Welcome back to 94 feet. Hey, Danny, what was going on right there?
I didn't have the counter no more. Like the counter ended and it just showed our faces, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was gonna say I
Okay.
don't know what's going on. I mean, I feel like this. I'm not sure if it's the Wi-Fi for us. I don't know what it is, but I feel like this. I guess service is kind of giving us some confusion in the past, but we're good. We're good now. Welcome back to 94 feet, ladies and gentlemen. Cade Cameron, Danny Stepanovich, as usual. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's much to say on both sides. We know what's going on in the Eastern Conference Finals. We know what's going on in the Western Conference Finals. It's shaping up to look like it's a possibility of being a sweep in both regions, both conferences, which is incredibly weird, incredibly different, especially considering how the second round played out in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's going to be the majority of the show, just talking about where both series are at. Both are at 3-0. But of course, we've also got to talk about some of the other big news, latest coaching firings. Got to talk some fashion as well with the Adidas and Fear of God collection that's supposed to be coming in the later half of this year. But as usual, Danny, how's it going today for you?
Hey, I'm pretty tired, long day of work, but hey, I'm glad we're back into the routine though, Cade. Thanks for asking. How you doing? As these finals heat up, I'm glad we're back into it.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say, I mean, shoot, if it ends up going in that direction and both these teams end up sweeping their opponents, I mean, you're talking about having almost a week before, more than a week, because I think Game One of the NBA Finals is June 1st. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're talking about almost 10, 12 days before we actually do see the NBA Finals. But even then, I mean, you're talking about like I think it'd be probably the quickest conference finals on that we've seen in both conferences, which would be insane.
Yeah, and that's interesting to look up. Obviously we do the show the the night of the game, so it's kind of tough to dig into the researches. But yeah, that's something I kind of want to look into actually. When's the last time we've seen two sweeps?
Yeah, in the conference final, I mean, it's crazy to see. Like, there's a chance that if that is the case, which I think at this point it very well could be, that you're looking at Game 4 between the Heat and Celtics having are finishing on Tuesday, and then you're talking, what would that be like? I think 10 days between the last game and then the start of the NBA Finals, 11 games. If you're the Nuggets and Lakers if it does end up being a sweep in that direction. I don't think it might be the case, but we'll get into that a little later. Danny, let's start with. I know you got a lot to say about the Lakers and you got a lot to say about the Western Conference Finals. Let's flip it to the game tonight, though. I mean, it was we saw what happened in the two games in TD Garden in Boston. Jimmy Buckets, one of their pulled up big time in Game 1. Game 2 was a game that looked like the Celtics might actually be able to hold on to and win, but Miami was right there right until the end. They were able to make the big buckets and necessary to come away with their second win in TD Garden. I mean, today 128-102. I mean, the second seed in the East looked embarrassed today, playing in Miami, and I mean, say it right now. I do not have any hope in the Celtics team anymore.
Nah, this Celtics team is toast. I mean, what a complete choke job, complete no show. It looks like, I mean, I don't see a way Joe Mazzulla comes back. We said this after that Game 2 loss. I said I wouldn't be surprised even if they come back that this dude doesn't come back after losing some lazy, looking lazy against the Hawks, not getting the job done against the Sixers, and then just complete no shows. I mean, this is a most win in Miami. I dug into a little bit into how the Celtics played in the regular season versus the playoffs. Just defensive rating. We kind of dug into how Robert Williams last show was the defensive anchor on that team last year, who had the best defense in the league, which is part of the reason why that team last year was able to kind of turn it on in that second half of the season and go on that finals run. It was behind Robert Williams, Marcus Smart. These guys were dogs. I don't have the box score in front of me, but I believe Robert Williams only logged 14 minutes in game three. Al Horford finally logged less than 20. Maybe he listened to the pod because, man, Al Horford was getting cooked games one and two. Um, in the regular season, second best defensive rating. In the playoffs so far, they've been worse amongst teams left, 10th out of the 16 teams. I mean, just defensively, they've been getting cooked. I'm just gonna repeat myself from the last show, but it's like um how Marcus Smart and no one really has seemed to just take a step up and say, you know what, I'm gonna get Jimmy Butler. I know it was the Gabe Vincent game in game three, but it's still, I feel like there's like no dogs on the Celtics team to, just say, let me get Jimmy, let me get Gabe Vincent, let me lock them down, and let the other guys beat us, which Gabe Vincent did do, but just uninspiring effort from the Celtics team, who, um, you know, they had I want to say, um, I'm gonna have to look back because I know there's been some pretty easy paths to the finals in years past, but I can't think of an easier path than the Celtics team has gotten. The Bucks, the number one seed, they go down to this Heat team. They get the Hawks, who they don't play a lick of defense. They barely squeeze by in that play-in tournament. And then they get matched up with the Sixers, who I believe Embiid missed one or two games, games two or three, Kate, off the top of my head, or maybe it was just one game. And then, after the series ends, it comes out that he has a torn something in his knee. Who knows if that's the case? Sounds like an excuse to me. But, and then to get the 8 seed in the Heat team where, by now, isn't there enough tape on this Heat team? No Tyler Hero, no Victor Oladipo. I mean, you would have to say Ime Udoka would have had enough tape, would have figured it out by now. I mean, we've been saying it on all playoffs long. I feel like how this Heat team's going to get figured out, right? Eventually. No one's been able to figure them out in the East. Is that real?
Yeah, I just don't. I don't understand what is. I mean, it really just does kind of seem that Miami wants us. I mean, they're playing like they want this more. That's plain and simple. This this Celtics team is a team that we've seen have a lot of real good talent on that team. I mean, this is a team that was worse off last year and made it to the NBA Finals and took the Warriors to 6. It's a Celtics team that should not be. There should be no excuse for the way the Celtics team is playing. I mean, you look at the box score tonight. You have Jason Tatum, you're one of your top scorers, shooting 33% from the field, 1 for 7 for 3, and scoring 14 points. You only had you had 5 players in double figures for the Celtics, none of them reaching more than 14 points. I mean, it's ridiculous to see how poorly the Celtics team is playing. Going back to game 2, I mean, it's still fresh in our head. We were talking about how Jimmy Butler, I mean, you think that with 2 of the top defenders in the league, that you'd put somebody on Jimmy Butler. You're talking about game 2, Celtics had the lead for the majority of the game. They won 3 out of the 4 quarters. Go into the fourth quarter, they blow that lead. And Mazzulla doesn't think about maybe switching Grant Williams off of Jimmy Butler until after less than a minute left. Like, it makes no sense. That coaching decision makes no sense. And then even at the end of the game, deciding not to call a timeout when you're down 5, you're not going to do anything there, but you think you maybe want to try doing something to rethink what you can try doing to score 5 points in those few minutes or those few seconds. Like, it's blowing up in their face how bad they're playing. You even then, again, look at Miami tonight. They blew out Boston. Jimmy Butler didn't even Jimmy Butler put up 16 points, which is a very average day for the guy. He shot 5 for 13. You were able to limit him defensively, but then you forgot about Gabe Vincent. There's 6 players, my bad. Yeah, 6 players on that Miami roster that scored in double figures. And you're talking about Duncan Robinson putting up 22 points. You're talking about, let's look at that, Martin putting up 18. Gabe Vincent, 29. Like, I mean, this is stuff where you take away Jimmy Butler. This team is so complete and this coaching is so well that they're going to still go out there and put up gnarly points against you. Like, they want it more, plain and simple. They want it more. Boston is done. They're cowering. They're in the corner. The season is done for Boston. They'd be lucky to get out of here in 5 games and get a gentleman's sweep out of them, but it's 100%. I mean, Miami isn't going to let game 4 be the game that Boston finds a way to get some momentum back into this, especially going back to TD Garden if it were to go to a game 5. I just it's it. Miami's got it. They've locked it up. Put them in for the finals right now.
Now, if we were to say, who has a better shot of coming back from 03, I would probably say this. I think I'm gonna say the Lakers,
I
Kate. I
don't
really
know.
do. I
Yeah.
think the Celtics team. I think they get swept. Honestly,
No, but yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no the way they played tonight proves that. I mean, what I mean, Jimmy Butler or not Jimmy Butler. Jason Tatum isn't going to be putting up those Game 7 performances like he did in the second round for 4 consecutive games. It's not going to happen. Jason Tatum is too inconsistent, and I mean, we kind of ended the show on it last Friday where we're kind of just bantering with the guy who was coming in talking, saying he was from Europe, all that stuff, asking who was better, Jimmy Butler or Jason Tatum. We both agreed longevity wise, and by the end of their careers, we both think Jason Tatum could have that better career. But right now, I mean, he's so inconsistent. He's so unable to really take those shots when it's necessary. I mean, I think I can't say this for certain, but I think it was in Game 2 in Boston. It was another one of those situations where Jimmy Butler will not take a shot late in the game. He will not put himself in a position to take a big shot, to take a shot that like would continue to give them the lead that was necessary to keep that lead and give them a game and or winning Game 2. I mean, you look at this. If you're talking about the Celtics winning Game 2, splitting the series in Boston, going to Miami, even if you're down 2-1 right now, you will at least have some motivation to think, okay, we can actually find a way to get a win in the second game, and you're back to having home court advantage. I mean, it'd be a 3-game series at that point, but you'd have at least 2 in Boston with your home court. You'd have at least a solid shot at finding a way to make it to the NBA Finals. But you gave up the lead in Game 2, a game that you knew you would have to take in order to split that series and realistically make a difference here because we knew Miami would at least win one in Miami. And now they're up 3-0. I don't see how Miami wouldn't be able to do this again in Game 4 and lock up the series in 4.
okay. I remember, a couple years ago with that Houston team, with James Harden, and they were just chucking up a bunch of threes. Kind of remind I kind of want to bring that back to your Jason Tatum point, where it's like fourth quarter. This dude has scored as many points in 3 fourth quarters in the series as us. And I think that just goes into kind of the Celtics offense that even though I feel like both of us have loved the Celtics team going back, a year and a half now, but when it comes to their offense, it's just either it's Jason Tatum's turn, ISO, Jason or Jaylen Brown ISO, or hot potato around the key to the open three. Who's going to chuck the three? We've been saying this playoffs, too many Al Horford 3-point shots. Last playoffs, I remember it was too many Marcus Smart 3-point shots. And maybe going into next year, I think this offense just they need to get an offensive guy as their new head coach. Yes, I'm already calling for new head coach. This Boston team second in 3-pointers made, second in 3-pointer attempts, fourth in 3-point, sixth. I'm sorry, in 3-point percentage. So they're good 3-point shooting teams, but it's like when I just look at this offense, it's just nothing I want to fall in love with, especially if your star, your number one player, Jason Tatum, is just going. I don't know if it's ice cold, unengaged. There's not enough set plays for him, to maybe put him in the pick and roll in that fourth quarter, because there's just no excuse to why Jason Tatum, a guy who put up 51 points in Game 7 last series, should have 0 points in 3 fourth quarters. I know this Game 3 was a blowout, but still, it's just come on.
Well, I think one of the most frustrating things about it with this Boston team is that you have the possibility of having a really good offensive team, especially around a team that has already established itself as one of the top defensive teams in the league. I mean, we've seen last year what these players can do in the big moment. I mean, Jaylen Brown had a lot of really big moments last year in the last year's NBA Finals. Jason Tatum having one of the best Game 7 performances in recent memory. Marcus Smart putting up significant points in a lot of different big time games. Like, this is a team that can score, and when you add a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, who has been shown to be one of the top, I mean, he's sixth man of the year he's sixth man of the year. It's just like you think that this is a team that would get better offensively while keeping the core that made it such a good defensive team last year, a team that got them to the finals based off that defense. And I mean, I think at this point you have to look at the coaching as the fault for this team. Mazzulla's not making. I mean, defensively, he's not making the right decisions in this series. Offensively, he's not making the right decisions in this series. As of now, and we'll get into it a little later, this is the perfect time to fire your coach if you're not happy with what he's doing because every coach is on the market right now. It's such a weird dynamic for the Celtics team. And I mean, we've seen it in the past series. This team likes to play with their food. They should have put Atlanta away a lot easier than they did. Realistically, that series against Philadelphia should not have gone 7 games, especially when you look at the way they played, and they were very close to losing that game 6, which would have sent Philadelphia to the Eastern Conference Finals if it wasn't for the fact that Jason Tatum, in some miraculous way, actually got hot in the fourth quarter. But then finally, we have them here where they're down 3-0 against the Miami Heat, a team that we know isn't a traditional 8 seed. The way they've played their basketball this postseason, taking down the number 1 seed in 5 games. They lost 2 against the Knicks, but even then, we knew, seeing the way they played against Milwaukee, the Knicks maybe had a chance, but I don't think it was going to be anything significant. I just don't think a lot of people were expecting them to play this way against Boston. They're absolutely destroying Boston right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing we could kind of go deeper into the Heat on the next show, Cade, when we preview the finals. But I kind of, most of my points were mostly just surrounding just how bad the Celtics have been, and then we can deep dive into the Heat unless you got something to say. But I mean, they just got dudes that can shoot. It's pretty much that simple.
Exactly. No, and the one thing I'll say about this is that you look at this. I mean, you look at the Heat. They haven't made many significant changes since they went to the NBA Finals back in 2020. This is a team that has been very much together. And outside of maybe the Lakers, yeah, I'd honestly only say the Lakers. Outside of the Lakers, these are 3 teams in the conference finals that have played significant minutes as a team by itself. The Nuggets have a lot of really good chemistry. The Heat have a lot of really good chemistry. The Celtics should have a lot of really good chemistry. The only difference is that they have a first-year head coach in Mazzulla. I think the Celtics are in a position where they're going to continue to find success and they're going to continue to win. The biggest issue that I have with this right now is the fact that Mazzulla is a first-year head coach under Ime Udoka, who, I mean, is already, as a first-year head coach, has already found himself a fairly good coaching tree. I mean, one of his assistant coaches, Hardy, that's his name. Hardy's out in Utah right now. Jeff Hardy, I think it's Jeff Hardy. Out in Utah right now. It took a Utah team that was realistically not supposed to be anything special into a team that honestly had a little bit of flair to them this season.
Will Hardy, by the way.
Will Hardy? Okay, that's right. Yeah, Will Hardy, not Jeff Hardy. It's already kind of an established coaching tree set by Ime Udoka, even though he was only a one-time head coach for this Boston team. I think the one thing that you've got to look at this and just say is that does Mazzulla have what it takes to be able to actually coach a team and win? I mean, he's floundering under the pressure. He's not doing good. I don't know, because I mean, this is a team that isn't much different than what team went to the NBA Finals last year. Realistically, this is a team that's better, so I don't know why they're floundering the way they are. Miami's just a really good team. That's what I'll leave it at. Danny, you probably have a lot to say about your Lakers right now.
Hey, Cade, you know what? Ask me a question. Where do you want me to start? I got a lot to say. I can't just go.
3-point shooting from LeBron. What's going on there?
I'll say this, Cade. 38 years old, 23, 6 and 10 playoff average this year in this series. 24, 9.5, and 10.5. Damn near a triple double. Is it okay to say he's getting old and he's getting tired?
He played like 38.
Yeah, I go on Twitter and he's just getting bashed. I mean, I get it. This 3-point shooting, terrible. I don't know if it's the reason why the Lakers lost this game. It's part of the reason. LeBron is the best player on the team, so he definitely deserves some of the blame. But I mean, the way LeBron is getting hated on, I think he's getting I think it's over hate. I pulled up just career playoff averages. I didn't want to pull up Jordan because Jordan was in the league was in the playoffs for 10 years. So I was thinking who's like an all-time leading scorer who was in the playoffs for the majority of career. That's Karl Malone. Karl Malone career playoff averages 24, 10, and 8. LeBron, year 38, in the playoffs, not career. 24, like I said, 9.5 and 10.5. Okay, so yes, LeBron is getting lazy in the fourth quarter. I don't understand. It does drive me crazy. Trust me. But I'm gonna put if I had to put like a percentage of the blame on why the Lakers are down 0-3, I'll go 25% LeBron K just because, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why he's falling in love with this three in the fourth quarter. I only reason why I can say is just um he gets tired in the fourth or something. I don't know. Well, I don't know why he's not just giving it to AD. But I gotta give another what can I do 50% on Darvin Ham? Is that too much? I don't know
I
because
mean, I would say I think you could just put 75% on this Denver team is just really fucking good. Like I think
thank
that's
you.
half.
That was my next point. Let's not act like this Denver team is a slouch. We've been saying this all season long. This Nuggets team, if I wasn't a Lakers fan, Kate, come on, I'd be picking this Nuggets team because this Nuggets team by far has had the best starting lineup in the West. I don't know about NBA because Celtics, Bucks, probably you could argue, but for my money, I think the Nuggets have had the best starting lineup in the West. Just the way you craft a roster this is just perfect. I mean, you got your point center, Jokic, dude's averaging a triple double. Jamal Murray, no All Stars, yes, but we were talking about it last show. This dude's easily a top 5 shooting guard in the league. You could definitely argue over Donovan Mitchell, who's I believe that it has like one All NBA. You probably can't argue Devin Booker. You can definitely argue Bradley Beal, who's what 5-time All Star. This Denver team's they've had the second best offense in the regular season. Lakers played them tough at Denver games 1 and 2. Game 3, I mean, they just go cold in the fourth. MPJ heats up. For some reason, Darvin Ham, he's fallen in love with Dennis Toaster Schroeder. 7 points per game on 40%. I don't know why this dude Schroeder's been playing, so much late in the game. I get that he's kind of a pest defensively, but he's undersized. And man, I know Jared Vanderbilt can't really shoot the 3, Cade, but how come he's just riding the bench? I mean, I'm just looking, off memory. I'm looking back at old Lakers teams who won the chip, 2010, 28. If I remember correctly, Ron Artest couldn't shoot the 3 that well. Lamar Odom couldn't really shoot the 3. Those guys were those were key minutes. It's like, okay, Jared Vanderbilt can't stretch the floor. Let's completely give up on him, even though he's definitely the best matchup for Jamal Murray because Jared Vanderbilt was able to shut down John Morant, or maybe not slow down John Morant, and that's pretty tough to do. So the fact that Jared Vanderbilt, completely got benched this series, I don't really understand it. D'Angelo Russell, ni hao. Okay, minus 25, minus 16, minus 12 the last 3 games. This dude can't. We've been known he can't play a lick of defense. What happens at the gate? Game 3, out of the first 11 points that the Nuggets scored, 9 of them were on D'Angelo Russell. So it's like he can't play a lick of defense. He can't shoot the ball. I think he had 3 points, right? And then going into the fourth quarter, Lakers are up 1, 7 minutes and 48 seconds left. The rest of the way, AD and LeBron combined for 1 for 4. They get 4 shots up. I think LeBron went 1 for 2 from deep. He had one of those threes, one of his 2 threes, end of that fourth quarter. But there's just no reason AD, who, for the most part, he had an efficient game. He had a solid game. He was getting boards. Why is there no set plays in it? And why are they just kicking it out to Schroeder to shoot the threes when you got a red hot AR? Why is LeBron shooting the threes? I didn't like how game 3 ended. Obviously because they lost, but it was like I don't know. AD and LeBron kind of checked out. It was tough to see. I didn't agree with the lineups Darvin Ham was putting out there. So, Kate, you let me ramble on. My bad. I'll let you react to what I said.
I'll say no, you're good. I mean, you might be able to confirm this, but I think one of the most frustrating things about this series, if you are a Lakers fan, is the fact that these have all been winnable games. Like hasn't been a game that really hasn't necessarily been out of the reach for the Lakers to either come back and win or keep a lead and win just outright, But then you also look at the way that they've been playing this series. Jokic had a big game in game 1, but I mean, I think Jokic is being locked down the best he can be compared to the past two series. I mean, it's no surprise there. You look at this first series they had against the Timberwolves. You are going up against people like Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, but let's be honest here, Jokic is still one of the two-time MVP or back-to-back MVPs, one of the best offensive players in the game. They're not going to slow him down too much. You go to that Suns series, we all know DeAndre ain't going to slow him down that much. So you finally actually start putting up a team that's actually going to be putting up some defense against them, putting up some height against them, against this entire team. I mean, you look at it height wise. It's don't get me wrong, the Nuggets do have some height. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems like this Lakers team is more physical, more dominant, and should be limiting the scoring of this Nuggets team. And realistically, they are. It's just the fact that this scoring is not coming from Jokic. It's now coming from Jamal Murray, who's put up 31 points in game one and 37 in back-to-back between games 2 and game 3. So you're doing what you can to limit Jokic. I mean, he only put up 24, 6, and 8 today, which for Jokic, that's nothing special, you know? That's a very average day for, I mean, him. And I think he'd probably be pretty upset about the way he played, if you ask me, just knowing the caliber that we've seen Jokic play at in the past. But still, the fact that Jamal Murray gets hot and you can't stop him. I mean, and the craziest thing about this too is that you look at Michael Malone. He's using an 8-team. He's only using an 8-player team. He's only going to 3 players off the bench, so you know who you're going to be seeing on a consistent basis. And Jamal Murray's still putting up those points. Jokic is still putting up those points. He's getting those assists. People forget that MPJ, when in the right moment, can get hot, get some threes right there. KCP. I mean, this is a team that everybody and every piece on that team is going to be lethal. They're going to be scary to guard, and you're not going to be able to really shift around that defense in a way that's going to keep everybody locked in and stopping them from scoring. I mean, you go back to that last series. I mean, I'm just going to use the last series as an example because that was the one I was most locked into, most watching. But you looked at what the Suns were doing. They would have to sacrifice one shot for the other. And that's what killed them in that series, is that you'd either have to double down on Jokic and try making sure you stop him from taking that short little high arc mid-range jumper to get an easy 2, or you hope that the guy in the corner, in this case KCP, doesn't get hot and start making threes from there. I mean, it's just like kind of like pick your battle, pick your poison. And as of now, they have been picking their poison and trying to get rid of Jokic, but Jamal Murray has been heating up just as much. So, and I'll go back to one of the things you said earlier. If there is a team in this postseason that can come back from 3-0, it is the Lakers. But we're also just looking at 2 different series. I mean, if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, I don't even think this Lakers team really has a chance just based off the way the Nuggets are playing. Do I think they're going to win game 4? I mean, in LA at Crypto.com Arena, I think they're going to win that game because they know they have that feeling of their backs against the wall. But right when they go to Denver for game 5, that's going to be the series right there. I don't see both these series being a sweep. I think the Lakers are more primed to take one. I think they're going to take this next one before being escorted to Cancun in game 5.
Yeah, I think they'll take game 4 as well. I don't see them getting swept at home. Whereas, I think Miami could definitely close it out. But one more thing, Cade, you kind of touched on like that Nuggets or rotation, 7-man lineup. Or I guess it's been 8. I mean, we didn't see Christian Braun too much in game 3, but for the most part, he's been in these playoff series. Thinking about the difference between this Lakers and Nuggets team is Lakers have still been tinkering with lineups all playoffs long, which foolishly I kind of thought that was a good thing because I was kind of thinking, we got a bunch of different guys that we can mix and match with. We got Vando, we can do Rui off the bench. By the way, Kate, how come Roy wasn't starting after game 1? I mean, I get that he could be one of those sparks off the bench, but man, I feel like that dude should have been starting over D'Lo game 2, game 3. I was like, but going back to like what I was saying, I thought it was a good thing that they could go Malik Beasley, Lonnie Walker. They got a bunch of dudes, but what I didn't realize that you talked about this earlier in the show when we were talking about the Celtics and the Heat, I believe. This Nuggets team has been together all season long. Last year, I know there was no Jamal Murray, but for the most part, these guys have been together and they've had this set lineup. I kind of, for some reason, I was thinking, oh, they don't have that deep of a bench. Jeff Green, they really only got Bruce Brown that I trust. But, man, these guys have played together, played a lot of games together. They've had lots of reps. They know where each other's on the court. And, going back to like what I said earlier, man, they just got dudes. Bruce Brown can hit threes. He's a solid defender. Aaron Gordon, solid defender. MPJ, well, he was like what top three prospect coming out of high school, before he got hurt. Yeah, KCP, this dude's a vet as well, so it's really not a surprise that Denver's going to be going to the finals, and it's well deserved, really.
Hey, I got to ask this too. I mean, KCP, former Laker and recently a former Laker. How's that feel for you to see him go into the system in Denver and really work out for this team?
Well, usually I love my former Lakers, but KCP for some reason he's been talking a lot. I don't know if negotiations just went sour. If he wanted to come back with the Lakers, I got to go back and look it up. But I've been a KCP fan. I always like seeing my former guys who win a chip with us go out, get paid, and then run it back. Because KCP was a dog for us. On that 2020 team, hit threes, probably our best perimeter defender. But he's been talking a lot about how this team's better than the Lakers. I don't know. I mean, he showed out in Staples. So, I was a KCP fan, but after hearing him talk before the series, throughout the series, talking to the media about how this Lakers team don't got it. I mean, I get he's on the Nuggets, but come on, man.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to see that. I mean,
Yeah.
he was part of that Lakers team, obviously, that won the NBA Finals. Weird to see how he was also involved in the Russell Westbrook trade. Obviously, things play out on a way to now he's with Denver. I feel like that's probably the biggest reason why is because you trade him for somebody like Russell Westbrook. He sees that blows up in the Lakers' face, and then now obviously he's on a team that's playing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And I mean, at that point, you could like your players. I mean, you could like your teammates on the team, but I mean, you got a new team at that point. You got to stay loyal to them. But even then, I think just in general, there's very few aspects of that team, and I mean, like the core of this team being Jokic, Murray, and Porter. They've all played together for a significant amount of time. Porter's been dealing with injuries. And also, just to clarify your point, I'm pretty sure he was the number one overall prospect in that 2017 class, if I remember correctly. But yeah, MPJ going through injuries, Murray going through injuries. This is what's been slowing this team down so consistently over the past few seasons. I mean, we saw what they were able to do in the bubble. Weren't able to get that done against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals there. They dealt with their injuries through 2021 and 2023 or 2022. They finally get back into this position where they're all playing at a consistent level. And I mean, I think just the fact that Jokic has gone through all that heartbreak and loss, Murray's had to sit out for such a long time that he's just excited to get back into it. MPJ being in that same position where they all know they all have that energy, knowing that like this is the best shot we really do have to win a finals before we do start having to really compete against some of these other teams in the West that we know are going to want to take that step up, especially seeing, I mean, the way that the whole coaching carousel started working. And actually, now that I think about it, outside of some of the lower tier teams, I think the Suns are the only playoff team that fired their head coach. So I'd have to double check that one real quick, but just something we'll get into a little later. But I mean, there's going to be consistent
Bucks
change.
as well.
Well, no, I'm talking about just in the West, though.
West. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think the Suns are the only playoff team to fire their head coach. Yeah, just in general, though. I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes coming up. I think there's going to be a lot of changes no matter what. So I think they recognize this is going to be one of their best bets, best chances to win an NBA Finals. Because at this point, if they do, the target's on their back. Even if they go to the NBA Finals, if in the West the target's on their back, it's going to be a team that's going to continue to show dominance in the West. But I think this is their best chance right now, and they're proving to be that case. We'll obviously have to save Nuggets Heat. If that is the case and both teams do end up making it to the NBA Finals, we'll save that for the next episode and talk about what the NBA Finals, like our NBA Finals preview, see what that's going to look like. I'll say this real quick. If it does end up being Nuggets Heat, which I think it really will be, I think one way or another, that's going to be a crazy good series.
Oh, I'm excited. I mean, it's not going to be Lakers Celtics, which I think everyone who's a basketball fan wished, but this is still going to be some good high level basketball. I believe Denver and Miami have some regular season beef. If I remember correctly, they got into it. I'm gonna have to check up on that, but I believe this team
a few years back they did. I don't know about.
Was it a couple years ago?
Because that was when Jokic shoved Morris in the back, right?
It was that long ago. I'm tripping.
Or honestly, yeah, I know that was a few years back, but unless they do got something going on this year. But yeah, so I mean I think when you talk about talent wise, just throughout the postseason and what these teams have been able to do, I really do think it matches up to be one of the better NBA finals just because the Heat or the Nuggets have been playing such dominant basketball. The Heat have been playing such dominant basketball, despite the fact that they're an eighth seed. I think it's going to match up really well. Lakers,
Also,
Celtics, I would say that would be fun just for the history of the two teams, but just in general, I like the Celtics. They have a lot of talent. They just haven't been playing that way. The Lakers, I mean, you're talking about the legacy of LeBron, Anthony Davis, all that. I don't know. I'm set on the idea of this being a Nuggets Heat finals, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Besides the point, though, do you want
real
anything?
quick,
Wait, what?
real quick,
Yeah,
Nuggets Heat. First impressions, Cade. Early lean. You gotta side because I really want to say Nuggets confidently, but if I'm going through the matchups, they match up pretty well. Jimmy Butler on
yeah.
Jamal,
I was
Bam
going to say
on Jokic,
I'm a
and
keeper. Or you
go
go? Yeah,
ahead.
go with. No, no. I want to hear what you said. I'll say what I think might happen, but
Okay, well, I'll just say, he got some sneaky size. Max Strus is a tall dude, and I think he can match up pretty well with MPJ. And then Aaron Gordon, he might be played off the floor. Honestly, I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna say this is an early thing. Don't be surprised about the Heat. I I'll say my prediction for the preview, but don't be surprised about it if the Heat come out strong. Um,
Seriously,
all right, you got any last comments for the Western Conference or even Eastern Conference Finals?
man. Rest in peace, Lakers. It was a fun run, fun season. Next year I'm excited to. Hey, real quick, I guess I kind of got This is another question for you. I might drag this on a little bit longer, but heading into the offseason, Cade, Celtics or Lakers, who's in more trouble?
Uh, I would say Lakers, in my opinion, just because we know with the Celtics, it's a little bit easier to pin down on the fact that they have their coaching issues at this point. I don't know if you'd really call it coaching issues; it's just the coaching inexperience of Joe Mazzulla. With the Lakers, LeBron James is getting older. I think that you can say confidently that this is a good team, but there's going to be a lot of improvements that are going to be needed to actually make this a contending team in the West. I think they're going to have to do a lot to kind of mix around because I mean, like, just looking at this Lakers team, I don't really see this as a starting lineup that's going to be consistently top tier starting lineup in the Western Conference. They're going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're talking about one of the best players in NBA history, Anthony Davis, who you know is going to be the anchor of this team, and then good role players here and there. It's going to be a solid setup, but I just think this team still has a few more adjustments to make this offseason in order to make them true contenders.
I don't know. I think these teams are in two different kind of realms right now because the Lakers, they're aging, but they're gonna have money to bring in a player like, oh, I don't know, Kyrie Irving. I don't know who
Oh,
else
I
would
don't know
want to
about
come
that
play
stuff.
for the Lakers. I'm gonna have to do some digging and see who's someone that the Lakers would want to bring in to play with LeBron and AD. I personally wouldn't want Kyrie. But D'Angelo Russell, that's $31 million off the books because I don't see how they re-sign him. And then if I look at the Celtics, a lot of rumors around Jaylen Brown this whole year. I think he's eligible for the max. I believe he got All NBA second team. Correct me if I'm wrong if you know that, Cade. But I'm interested to see if Jaylen Brown, who he might want to be that number one who everyone thinks he can be. I personally don't think so. There might be some moving around in Boston more than you think, Cade. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's possible. I think
Yeah.
they're. I think from what we've seen out of Boston so far, they're committed to keeping this core. So I think you're going to see that happen. I think you're going to see a little bit more with the bench more than anything. I don't know exactly off the top of my head who their free agents are, who they're looking to kind of deal in the offseason. But I mean, you go through their bench. I mean, I'm assuming they'd want to keep Brogdon. I wouldn't be surprised if Grant Williams goes somewhere else. I mean, I don't know. I just think that in general, there's a chance that the Celtics team could be making some moves at the bench. I just don't know if it's going to be a situation where I just can't see that starting lineup other than Robert Williams really changing up much for the Celtics team. Um, yeah, so that's it. Coaching firings as of recently. It's a weird trend that we're seeing in the NBA so far, where these teams are being consistent, like these consistently good teams are firing their head coaches. You saw it with Mike Budenholzer. You saw it with Monty Williams. You saw it with Doc Rivers. I mean, I think those are the top three, the most winningest coaches in the most recent seasons of the NBA, and they're all fired. So it's interesting to see. Dan, I just kind of want to see your take. What do you see out of this, and what do you think is going to end up coming out of these coaches firing? And I mean, where could they possibly land to? Oh, I also forgot Nick Nurse in that list as well.
Yeah, my initial reaction was, wow, man, these coaches are getting canned pretty quickly. But when I look at other major, the NFL realistically, and these NFL coaches, I feel like you get a good squad, you choke in the playoffs or you underperform, and they get canned real quick. Versus the NBA, I mean, how long was Doc Rivers on the Clippers? How long has he been on the Sixers? These guys get a lot of shots in the NBA. So I actually kind of agree with the Bucks firing Budenholzer. I mean, dude, how do you lose to an 8 seed? No, get out of here. We're gonna bring in someone else who can. Monty Williams. Hey, I'm sorry, man. What you had 3 shots. This is 3 strikes, you're out. We won him a championships. New owner. I know Monty. There's gonna be a market for Monty, I think, but he wasn't able to get it done with KD and Book, and I know there was some injuries there. So I kind of like these moves. Who was the other one, Cade?
Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse. Oh, yeah. In my opinion, I haven't seen too much out of Nick Nurse. I think he might be the most overrated coach in the NBA right now because he won with Kawhi Leonard, who had the luckiest championship ring of all time because KD, I think, played what, one game,
Like
a quarter.
yeah, he played like a quarter and a half. Like he didn't even make it to halftime. I don't think.
Yeah, and who else didn't Clay tore his ACL or Achilles or
Yeah, but
something?
he didn't tear his ACL. I think until like late into Game 6. So I mean, or Game 5 or Game 6. So
Yeah,
I think it was
so
Game 5. So I mean, yeah, it was. He had his time to like make a name for himself in the series, but at that point,
and I don't
Raptors
know.
weren't
I
ready
feel
for
like
him.
the Raptors have had enough talent to go on some runs, and for them to just not even make the playoffs, I think that was valid. I will say this about your Suns, Cade. I kind of like a Doc Rivers fit in Phoenix.
Mm.
I know I'm the biggest Doc Rivers hater, um, but if you're gonna keep DeAndre Ayton and you're gonna keep for now Chris Paul, I think you want to bring in Doc Rivers, who's kind of just a locker room guy, not the smartest X's and O guy by far. I've never been a big Doc Rivers fan. I also think he's very overrated. But when I look at this Phoenix team, um, I think it's either gonna. I think it's gonna. I think you got to bring in a big name. Someone that can kind of really bring this locker room together. And because there's gonna be definitely new guys that you guys are gonna bring in with free agency. You guys are definitely gonna have to build your bench out, and with KD, DA, a lot of personalities, a lot of guys who want shots. I think Doc is the best fit, unfortunately.
It's interesting. I think I will say with the Raptor situation, Nick Nurse, that just seemed like a fitting firing. I mean, as you mentioned, they won the finals back in 2019 with Kawhi on the team. Ever since then, they really haven't done much. I mean, I feel like they've played in the play-in every year at that point. Um, but then you look at the kind of big ones. You look at Budenholzer, you look at Doc Rivers, you look at Monty Williams. You look at the teams and the way they're structured. You have an MVP on the Sixers with James Harden and some other really good talented players like Tyrese Maxey. You go to the Bucks and you have Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, a team that won the NBA Finals back in 2021, and you have said already shouldn't have had any excuse to lose to an 8th seed in the first round. You look at the Suns with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, which we all have seen his potential and know what he can do. Chris Paul. Those are all players that you know are going to go out there and put up big points. They're going to put up big numbers. They're going to put up stats. They're going to win your team games. So it comes down to how are you losing those games if those players are putting up big stats, and that comes down to the coaching. And that's why, even though these are really good teams, they've been structured in a way where you can't put the blame on Devin Booker or Kevin Durant or Giannis or Joel Embiid. I mean, you can, but you can't necessarily I mean, it comes down to coaching decisions and what they're able to do when those players are off the court. Because if you're losing games, it's not because Devin Booker or these big time stars aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's because you're putting in the wrong guys or you're putting in the just the wrong substitutions, not calling timeouts when it's necessary. Like it makes sense, Like it's weird to see just because of how successful these coaches have been. There's a plenty of arguments to say that okay, if you're successful, why wouldn't you keep you guys? You got to understand, like in situations like this, you have to be making those adjustments and moves because if they're not winning it there, they're going to just continue to fall go lower and lower down the shaft. It might be a first round exit next year and then missing the playoffs the year after that if they're not making those adjustments. Uh, I'll point out Phoenix real quick. Doc Rivers, interesting choice, I'll say. I don't know if the Suns would move in that direction, especially with new ownership. I think they're going to want somebody young and new and who's going to be reliable for that team. But it wouldn't necessarily surprise me seeing what Doc Rivers was able to do with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. I mean, we knew Joel Embiid was a great basketball player, but it really didn't seem like he stood out the way he was supposed to until Doc Rivers came in. I think if you're able to do that with a guy like DeAndre, in which I have also heard there was interest from other teams. I mean, Dallas was on that list. It looks like Portland might be interested in giving up their third overall pick for DeAndre. And it's if there's a situation like that, I think you're going to figure out what the Suns are looking to do with either a coach or DeAndre Ayton before the trade or before the NBA draft. If on draft day the Suns have not hired a new head coach, I think at that point you're looking at them trying to keep Ayton and trying to find a coach that is going to be able to actually work around him. I don't think that's the case. I think that's just DeAndre Ayton's personality at this point. I think he's a lost cause in my opinion. But if the Suns do end up trying to pick up a coach before that NBA draft, I think you're now looking at saying that the Suns recognize that and they're looking to possibly pick up that third overall pick from Portland. At the end of the day, I'm good with whatever. I just think from what we've seen so far, the blame can't be put on the players. It has to be put on the coaches. That's the easy outlet out. And I think a lot of these teams are going to be looking in the direction of trying to find coaches that fit that mold, that are going to be a little younger, a little bit more creative, different, unique. And I think the few things that I will say is I don't know who would be the coach in Milwaukee. I think you can see Monty Williams going back to Philadelphia. I wouldn't be surprised if Doc is a possible option in Phoenix, knowing what he was able to do with Joel Embiid. Who knows what Nick Nurse is going to be able to do? I mean, there's so many different options out there, and I mean that brings up. I forgot what I was just about to say. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays
out. Who do you want, Caden? And do you have a preference in Phoenix?
I don't know if I necessarily have a preference. I'm going to have a preference once a coach is determined. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I think once I hear about what options are available. I remember what I was going to say. I'll bring that up in a few minutes. But yeah, I don't know if I have a preference yet until I really see what ends up happening. Because for me, I like the idea of trading DeAndre, and in that case, I think the options for coaches are much higher than some of the other. Like if we were to keep DeAndre, because I think that's the biggest thing. You don't need to coach Chris Paul. You don't need to coach Devin Booker. You don't need to coach Kevin Durant. You need to be able to know when to put in your substitutions, know when to call a timeout, and know how to coach DeAndre. Those are the three things you need out of a coach. But that third part is the toughest part, and finding a coach to do that and actually, get along with them and actually make him happy is going to be the toughest possible option. Because like I said, DeAndre, great player. He has all that potential. But if he truly wanted to be in the position he wanted to be in, he would have been there by now. He's a lost cause. I don't see him being that significant of a player, despite the fact that he's shown that he can't do that. Going back to the 2021 NBA Finals. DeAndre were the hose at 8. That's how. It always just felt like when he was going to step up in those big games, and it just felt right. I don't know. I think that you need a coach that's going to be able to develop DeAndre but I also just feel like we should just call it a lost cause with them and look at a different option. The one thing I was going to say too, referring back to the Raptors, they're already talking about some different options for them. I think they were talking about possibly reaching out to JJ Redick and seeing if he'd be interested in that head coaching vacancy. There's some really weird decisions and options out there, but it shows that I think every team is going to be looking at all the possible options and going to see if there's any chance they can find something that's a diamond in the rough or something a little different.
Yeah, I don't know about JJ Redick. JJ Redick, it seems like he says all the right things. I don't know. Are you a JJ Redick fan? Because I don't know. It seems like this dude is just I don't know. I don't know if he's like a little too try hard on ESPN or like a little too goody two shoes or something. I don't know. Something about JJ Redick just is just off to me. I don't know if
Well,
that's
no,
just
here's the thing: is that he goes on to like ESPN or something like that, and goes out there and says some logical stuff. It's just the fact that like he's acting too goody two shoes and a little bit too like straight up
okay.
about
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? Like he has the right basketball mindset. It's just a
for
matter
sure.
of where he's at, being on First Take, trying to battle it out with Stephen A. and an argument that is going to be going nowhere. I think he's got the right mindset. Is he going to be a good coach? I think that's a completely different perspective. But I don't think
Yeah.
that's the case. I want him
I'd
moving
like
that
to
direction.
see him coach because I don't know when I see him talking on First Take, he almost like is talking like he's been there and like he's never gonna be wrong. That's kind of the vibe I get with him. Or is like sometimes sometimes you want the hot takes. It's good
Oh
to
yeah.
be wrong because when you're right, it looks really good. Or so maybe I do want to see JJ Redick see if he does got what it takes. I think if he does land in Toronto, he's gonna have some young pieces to work around. And yeah, we'll see what he can do. We saw Jason Kidd, a player, kind of I don't know if he's succeeding in Dallas. He might be on the way out soon. But I'm trying to think of some other players that went into coaching right away. Jason Kidd, you got any other ones, Cade?
I'm trying to
Off the
think
top
of
of your
them off the top of my head. I can't think of anybody really.
Yeah, I don't know. Lately, it's been dudes that have assistant coaches who've been around the league, kind of built up a
Yeah.
reputation. The Pelicans head coach, Darvin Ham. Just going through some recent hiring. So I'll be interested to see JJ Redick. I'll look into that. I didn't hear about that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a kind of odd one that I don't think a lot of people really like that thrilled about. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see where they're going to go with that because I mean, you're talking about coaches that have established themselves as being some of the best coaches in the NBA. I mean, that's where they've gone to where they're at. But teams just don't want them at this point. I mean, the teams they're on just don't want them at this point. It's not to see. Dan, you want to head over to Adidas and Fear of God?
Let's do it.
All right. I don't got much to say about this other than I feel like it's one of those collaborations that we've seen before where it just seems like they get it right with Nike and then they go to Adidas and their creative powers are just very limited and they just don't have a lot to work with and it just falls apart on them. Because I've seen this, like looking at what we've seen, I don't know what the clothing line is going to look like too much, but at least when it comes to the shoes, it just kind of seems like one of like the generic knockoff, not knockoff, but the generic more like casual, lower price basketball shoes that Adidas sells.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because they they signed Jerry Lorenzo. Adidas signs Jerry Lorenzo 2 years ago. Nothing in the last 2 years, and recently over the last couple months, they've been dropping releases. David Beckham just got sent 2 pairs. He posted on IG two of the Fear of God Adidas shoes. I don't know if he was supposed to leak them out, but he did. They're out there. And I just wanted to bring this up because this releases should be coming up in the second half of this year. Sorry, I'm really tired. I don't know why I can't talk right now, but but man, Kate, these are so underwhelming to me. I mean, Adidas, if they want to make a statement, Kate, what are the hottest Adidas shoes out right now?
Um,
The
I think
Sambas,
maybe
right?
the Sambas. Okay, yeah, Sambas.
The Samba. How come they not giving Jerry Lorenzo the Sambas? Why are they giving him like a new silhouette that looks kind of like a knockoff Fear of God 1 that Nike released in 2016, 2017 now from years ago, who kind of changed the game, put Jerry really on the map. Fear of God Essentials, those I was really popping. Essentials still kind of popping. You don't really see too much Nike Fear of Gods anymore. And for Adidas to steal him from Nike, and for 2 years, almost 3 years now, I think it might have been 3 years now. We don't hear anything, and then this is what they release. Kind of just these boring, like you said, knockoffs, underwhelming. They kind of, I don't know if you saw the basketball Fear of God shoes that are releasing, but they kind of just look like James Harden shoes. Nothing too special about them, and it's like, come on, Adidas, I'm waiting for them to do something.
Yeah, I agree. I think And this is something that I feel like you've seen out of Adidas so consistently. They've never put anything that creative, that unique, that different out there. Going back to your take about the Sambas, I mean, even with Nike, the closest thing, I mean, he had the Skylons or whatever they're called, the Fear of God Skylons, which looked like kind of similar to an Air Max, but he always had his own silhouettes. And I think that's what he was trying to do here with Adidas. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to use Adidas materials to create something that looks similar enough to what he was able to produce with Nike, and they just cannot get the nail on the head with this one. It just does not look great. Honestly, I even think if you go to a place like New Balance, it'd probably look better. I think this just solidifies the fact that we've talked about at the beginning of the year, at least one of my takes, that I think New Balance is going to jump Adidas when it comes to the sneaker game. I think it's clear as day that they already have, especially with Kanye leaving Adidas after the whole shit he went through. Um, the Yeezy not carrying the same level of respect it has anymore because it's not a Yeezy anymore. It just doesn't. I mean, Adidas has fallen off completely when it comes to shoes, and they're trying their hardest to keep it up there, but it's just it does not look good anymore. They don't keep them well. They're having to rely on their older silhouettes, which I think is like one thing that they should be working on. I mean, one of the things that Nike did when Dunk started getting into it, and I mean, we both thought it was super annoying. I think how when Nike recognized that the mass populations were starting to get into Dunks, and they just start producing every single possible pair of Dunks they could possibly think of just to get people because they know people would buy them. Adidas has got to think about doing the same thing with some of their classic silhouettes because that's the only way they're going to stay afloat in this sneaker world. The Sambas are a big pair of shoes right now. Why are you trying to reach out to any big, well-known collab or people to collaborate with the Sambas? It's the people that, and that's another thing too with the collaborations that Adidas does. They're very just kind of odd and unique. I mean, there's not really a collaboration that I've seen that I'm like, dang, they hit like they that's a good collaboration. Nike, on the other hand, they do a lot of collaborations, but and a lot of them are hit or miss. Let's be honest here. They have their really good ones with Travis Scott. Obviously, Union's had a lot of really good ones. There's some other people. AMA has had a lot of really good ones, but what Adidas has been doing so consistently is they're relying on the collaborations with influencers, of people of status, not these true designer boutiques, these design studios, almost like Nike has done with the Union and AMA. Like that, I think that works out so well. Some of the best collaborations Nike has are with these other designers, and I mean, you of course are doing that with Jared Lorenzo, but it's they got to keep, I think, working with that because with Jared Lorenzo, with Fear of God, he's going to want to bring his own silhouette and his own look into the game of Adidas. But if you go to these other boutiques and say, "Hey, I want you to work on a Samba and make it your way," you're going to, I think, going to open up a really interesting, unique, creative aspect to that hasn't been seen before. And I don't know why Adidas isn't looking into that aspect. Obviously, I know just they want to be different than Nike, but Nike's making it work so well. So why is Adidas trying to reinvent the wheel?
No, 100%. Even talking, kind of going back to those collabs that you were talking about, w- you know, just thinking back on some of the Adidas top collabs that, brought some hype. Obviously, it was Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, huge in the fashion game. Not too hot anymore, though. And then, the Gucci collab was big.
Bad
They
Bunny.
had a Bape collab, Bad Bunny collab, but it's like you said, they're not collabing with too many like streetwear boutiques or like streetwear influencers. How come we're not seeing like another ASAP Rocky collab? I'm pretty sure they did a collab with him back in the day. How come we're not seeing more of that? More of like more guys that can put Adidas back on the in the sneaker game, Matt. Like Kanye, maybe not like Kanye. I'm trying to think of a creative artist that would move a lot of shoes. Maybe ASAP Rocky does something like that, but I believe he signs at Under Armour actually.
Oh,
Maybe they
that's
steal him
weird.
from under. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just I really thought I had high hopes for Adidas to sign to get Jerry Lorenzo, to steal him from Nike, and to give him complete creative control, which Adidas rarely does. Um, this has just been very underwhelming, and like you said, this might be toast for three stripes.
I think it's the end of the an era. I think, as you were talking about, is they brought in Kanye and Pharrell. That was at a time where bringing in like big time artists and rappers was kind of the thing. I mean, it's been a few years since Travis Scott was brought in as a collaboration with Nike, and again, that was at a time before they really started hitting these smaller boutiques and whatnot, and these smaller designers and smaller boutiques. It's I think Adidas needs to look in that direction if they do want to save themselves. If not, yeah, it's the end of three stripes. I think New Balance is that next big one. They're going to be taking over. They've got the celebrities that are necessary for that right now. I mean, just the fact that it went out of their way to do a Rich Paul collaborations on the 550s, that's a unique uh, collaboration. Like Adidas isn't doing anything unique. They're just doing what they think fits whatever their mold might be, which they don't even know if that's necessarily their mold. It's a weird collab. They've just had some weird ones out there. I just don't. And even then, the weird ones they've had, they just haven't looked good. I mean, the best like name that I think would have worked out would have been like Sean Witherspoon. But even then, the collaborations he's had with Adidas haven't looked good at all. They've looked actually
And I
kind of
believe
boring.
yeah, no, he had some underwhelming collabs, but I believe he signed with New Balance too. So like even New
Ooh,
Balance is taking advantage of that.
exactly. I mean, why not? I think New Balance is going to be that next big one. As I said at the beginning of the year, I think they're proving it. I think New Balance is also just such like it's weird because you look at the collaborations New Balance has, they're such simple collaboration. I mean, they don't have a silhouette that really stands out the way that Nike does, where they are just so many different unique silhouettes. Like, I mean, they all feel like kind of similar and unique in a way. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between a 990 V2 and or like a 990, what was it? Yeah, or a 990 V3 and a 2002R. Like there's such similar shoes, but it's the fact that or not Adidas, New Balance is able to make such unique different things out of that and make these weird collaborations that make it look good. Like the protection pack for Adidas, or not Adidas. Oh my God, for New Balance. I mean, that's a collaboration. It's not a collaboration, I don't think, but it's like I think it might be. I don't know. End of the day, that's a drop that really took off for New Balance. And you're talking about incorporating so many of their different silhouettes into that for such a simple but unique look that looks so good. Um, but
And
Adidas doesn't do that. Adidas, they go with the collaboration, but the only difference they really do is they don't give them the creative outlet to make it something unique or something different. They just add some. They may add something a little bit. They might change the color, but that's really all they do. It's nothing fun.
exactly, and New Balance, maybe uh Adidas can take a page out of their book and, like you said, start signing some of these boutiques that, have creative control with New Balance. Just a couple of the last couple of years, Joe Fresh had one, Teddy Santis, Benbury, with collabs with, fashion and New Balance collabing with like fashion boutiques, fashion personalities. Maybe Adidas, maybe they start going around to a bunch of rappers, Cade, because, um, I feel like rappers back in the day had a lot more move on the sneaker game than they do now. Whereas like maybe Adidas gives complete creative control to like Uzi or like Lil Yachty, some of these up and coming rappers who I don't believe some of these guys have shoes. Whereas back in the day, it was like, rappers got their sneaker collabs and like, you know, I mean, Adidas has been there with Run DMC. Back in the day, Run DMC was putting Adidas on the map. How come they're not trying this with Uzi or I'm trying to. I don't know. What are some other rappers that don't got signature shoes like Kid Cudi?
Yeah, so I mean, even just going back to some of those like more classic rappers, I think the one thing I'll say about Adidas, and I think this is what's going to end up happening, is that they've got to look into trying to find people that really amplify Adidas. Like I feel like, I mean, going back to Complex, or not going back to Complex, but like going to Complex and their um God, what's it called? Like, the series where they take people out to like sneaker shopping. That's what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Is that it always just seems like each person has had a deeper connection with Nike or one of the other brands. I think I've only seen Nike and New Balance as those deeper connections. I think Adidas also needs to emphasize the people who actually rock and wear Adidas on a consistent basis and just celebrate them, because those are the people that are going to be able to really treat a silhouette right, but also make a creative and unique look to it to make it look so much better and so much different, so much more alive, that is necessary for Adidas to keep living the way it needs to.
Hey, long show, Cade. I don't think I got
Man,
anything else. I'm ready to
I'll
go to
say,
sleep, bro.
no, me too. I feel that. I've got a long day tomorrow, so I'm ready for that.
Same.
Hey, thank you guys so much for joining today. A little bit of a later show, but we should be back on a little bit of a more consistent schedule. I've talked to Danny about it. I think this is something that we're going to try starting this week. We're going to make a SoundCloud. We're going to make these a little bit more easy to just pop in an AirPod and listen to it on the way to school, on the way to work, wherever we're going around. We'll try doing that. But as usual, stay classy, stay fun. Have a fantastic week, everybody, and see you next time.